The task of harnessing the productivity of youths in Nigeria, indeed, cannot be left to the government alone, though it is the responsibility of the government to establish formidable structures to galvanize efforts from different quarters. Truly, different stakeholders have offered varying measures of assistance, a lot of which have made some good impact. Very notable of these stakeholders is the church that has done and has continued to do its bit in contributing to the empowerment of youths, both on a large scale and on individual levels.
My name is Reverend Father Emmanuel CHIBUEZE NWALOKA from Imo State, Ata Ikedu, Imo State. I'm born in a family of 6. I'm the last child of my parents. My parents are Knights of St. John in the Holy Roman Catholic Church. I was ordained a priest on the 11th of July 2014, and then there began my journey, my story. I call my story a story of self-donation. This enterprise, originally Emil Global Stitches, began 4 years ago in the year 2020 and progressed into other conglomerates, EMI Global Links, the EMI Global Stitches, and NWALOKA Emmanuel Global Stitches. It began in a very simple way that I was inspired, having completed my studies, to begin a journey with the young people, a journey to empower them, a journey to enable them to have something to do for themselves. And I wanted to use myself as an example, and then there it began. So our production begins with getting up someone who wants us to produce clothing for them. This clothing ranges from kaftan, clerical wears like sutan, chasuble, abs, Roman collars, robes used in church for choir or for lay readers, and other works that we do. So when we have such work, this is the table where we draft. We begin with drafting of what you want, using the measurements. Our tools, one of the most important tools is scissors. We use scissors and measuring rule. We process it here by drafting. After drafting, we move towards another stage of the work. Some work that we do may necessarily need weaving, so we go into weaving. This particular tool, this is a weaving machine. There are 2 of them here. One is covered, weaving machine. So the weaving machine enables us to prepare the clothes. It's in the preparation. The weaving machine is in the preparation of the clothing for the actual sewing. So once we finish weaving, now we'll now proceed into the next production room. But let's not forget that sometimes the production may be so large. The production is so large. So what we do is that we use a cutting machine, that is an electronic cutting machine. This electronic cutting machine enables us to cut clothes up to 20 pieces at a time, with the same pattern, having laid up the pattern on top of the cloth. So we move from the cutting, we go into the production room. This is the last production section of our enterprise. The last part of the production goes with what we have here is the buttonhole machine. The buttonhole machine enables you to have a good buttonhole machine. Then this buttonhole enables you to get accurate buttonhole of a particular cloth. This machine is a craft machine, memory craft machine that we use to place designs on clothes. But these designs are simple designs. But the actual machine we use for designs is what we call the monogram machine. The monogram machine has the capacity to make every kind of design. every kind of design. Every kind of design. It is a machine that is computer driven. What that means is that you first of all organize your work in a computer, and the transfer is done into this machine. This machine has the capacity to read what is transferred from the computer to this place, and it will now produce it. Yeah, now produce it. Typical examples of actual works that are done by this machine are the chasuble. You can see the first here we have the chasuble. The chasuble, you can see the design that is crafted in this chasuble. This design is the actual work of this machine. You can do many other designs, but when we talk about monogramming, it has to do with a conglomerate of different kind of design that can be done at work. Then this machine is what we call the cutter. The cutter machine enables us to cut alphabets and images that are transferred into the machine. Probably I will still going to go back to the beginning area where the what is done by this machine is transferred into a cloth. These are samples of clerical wears that are produced here with fabrics. Though we are into the production of not only clerical wears, we produce polos, we produce cardigans, we produce joggers, we produce choir robes, and in a very special way, not to forget that we produce suits of various kinds. Some of them are suits that are crafted with African material, especially some people these days as Africans want suits that are made in African fabrics. So we make suits, English suits, and suits that are combined with African fabrics. So these are some of the works we have. I don't want to also forget about this machine. This machine is very, very important. We have the button tacker there, and we have the buttonhole machine, and this is the button tacker. The buttonhole machine and the button tacker have the capacity of tacking more than 1,000 shirts in a day, with individuals that are very, very energetic. It may surprise you that when I worked for Total Energy, I stayed in this place and I was able to tack up to 2,000 shirts in a day. So with this, I'm able to make about 2,000 shirts with buttonhole, and I'm also able to make about 2,000 shirts using the button tacker. So it enables you to fasten the job that you want to do. So when this machine had already done the crafting of the work in form of image or lettering, there's also another machine that we have there we call the heat transfer machine, because anything that has to do with heat doesn't come to this area because of this machine. This machine needs a condition to cool it down because it's a machine that emits energy. So the other section, the last section, another section, it's not the last section, but sometimes when we produce here, we have to go for the pressing and the transfer of images, either on chasubles, either on joggers. Somebody who is doing funeral may want an image transferred into a fabric. It is done at that side, what we call the heat transfer machine.
Okay, Father, since you are a priest in the Catholic Church, we have to start from there. What was your journey like into the priesthood? First of all, you're growing up and you're joining to the priesthood. Just take us through a little bit of it.
My journey towards the priesthood has a background. The reason was actually because my parents were lovers of the church. So as lovers of the church, we had a lot of religious men and women, priests and sisters who always came by. And as it may interest you, my godfather, my baptismal godfather, was a seminarian when I was born. His name is now very Reverend Father Cyril Mbata, who finally became a priest. So to show you the connection between my family and seminarians and religious men and women at that point in time. So my godfather was a priest. He is a priest up till now. So that was enough inspiration. I passed through the minor seminary in Okpala Minor Seminary in Owerri Archdiocese. And after I completed my studies in Okpala Minor Seminary, I did not want to continue with the priesthood. I wanted to read medicine. I struggled through the university. I got my JAMB. But in the process, again, my godfather returned back to Nigeria, having stayed in Ireland for a long time, and I went on a visit. It was on this visit that I feel that the call came back again. So I now joined the congregation of the mission, where I'm ordained a Catholic priest today. So that's how I began.
Now, have you become a priest? The impression we had about priests is that once you are a priest, you are only reserved to hear confession, celebrate mass, give Holy Communion, counseling. Those are the things we thought a priest is ordained to do. How did you come into establishing an enterprise like this?
Seriously, my congregation, which is the congregation of the mission, takes care of the poor. And actually that was the motivation towards becoming a priest. So in taking care of the poor, I've worked in places where poverty has been written on the faces of people, not only in Nigeria, in the Benue states where I worked, and also when I went to study in Cameroon, I saw poverty, and I saw the need to empower people. So, and I also understood that empowering people is not just only by preaching to them and telling them Jesus is the Lord, repent and believe in the gospel. You can also empower them by teaching them some God-given craft that you may have. I was not born a tailor. I didn't know anything about tailoring, but I love fashion. And I felt that fashion is one of those areas that young people can explore and be able to have a way of life. Now, the journey in fashion began in the Cameroons, where I was asked to take care of a young congregation that found it very difficult to pay their rents and also to feed. At the point in time, I had to ask them, what can you do for yourself? Because St. Vincent de Paul would say, don't always give them, but teach them how to, fish. So they told me that they can actually make clothing, they can make Reverend Father's clothes, altar, linens, and all those stuff. So I encouraged them by buying them the first machine they used. I got it from help of individuals in the church where I worked as a student though. Then they were able to start working, sewing. So in the process of making chasubles and clerical wares, I found out that most times they went outside to make embroidery with the embroidering machine. So they had always requested, Father Emmanuel, est-ce que vous pouvez nous procurer une machine d'embroiderie? Parce que it was in a French country. So I developed interest. I said, okay, what is this embroidery machine all about? And I made my researches. It was in the process of making researches about the embroidery machine that I now took interest in getting a wider range of knowledge about sewing. And I got interested in sewing. They made the first Roman collar from them, and I loved it. So I started encouraging them by speaking to people about their work and also probably getting works for them, and of which is sustaining them today in their apostolate. So when finally I came back to Nigeria, I decided to, outside my ministry as a priest, preaching the word of God and caring for souls, to empower the youths. Because sorry to say this, that when I arrived CKC, one of the greatest shock I had was that young people came to me after mass to seek for assistance. The first shock was a young man that came to me, good looking young man, please Father, can you give me some money to pay transport to Ireland, that I'm called for a job there. I was like, what do you do? He said he's going to work in a factory. What are you going to do in that factory? I'm going to for a job interview to be a gate man. I was like, but young man, you could do better things than this. It's true, I helped him, but inside me I was feeling that it was not proper. So it may interest you that I arrived here in April before Easter.
What year was that?
That was in the year 2020. After the COVID saga and all those stuff, I returned. So, and when I came back, I was one day in the couch resting, and I was flipping through the WhatsApp messages, and I saw a friend display a monogram machine. When the monogram machine came, I was like, this is what I really wanted. I want to start with this. So I put a call across, and how did you get this monogram machine? He said, from China, you can get it online, all those stuff. So I developed interest, and I decided to make inquiries about monogram machine. But it's also important to note that while I was in Cote d'Ivoire, I established some businesses, which is not tailoring. So when I came back, I was like, how would these businesses survive over there? Then the businesses of which I handed over to young people, because I have these interests to, empower young people. The business was ice cream making. I learned how to make ice cream from a Lebanese, and I started production of ice creams, and I opened the first business I had in Cote d'Ivoire, Ice Home, which furnishes people with ice creams around. So when this inspiration of beginning a factory, I wanted to begin a factory, so I wanted it big. So when I came back, the initial struggle was, how do I finance this? I felt that coming back so soon and asking people to finance such a project will be difficult. Then my parents had asked me, how will you be mobile in Lagos? I told them I needed a car. So the first money I received from my parents to acquire a vehicle was what I actually sent to China to acquire my machines. So the whole idea is that, let me get these machines. I will be able to open a social center where young people can learn monogramming, because it has to do with computer, how to customize clothes and all those stuff. It was monogramming initially, but when I now acquired the monogram machine from China, I now realized that it cannot just be about monogramming. I have to diversify into other sections, which is the sewing. So I began with clerical wears, and the first person I employed was a parishioner, because to show you the passion, a parishioner who just came to me and said, Father, I heard you want to go into fashion. I said, come in, let's work together. She's my manager today. So we started with clerical wears, the clerical shirts. We started making. It was not perfect at the first time. We started with clerical wears, then gradually we advanced into chasubles and apps, and we progressed, and we said we cannot just only serve only the clerics. So we now went into other aspects like the joggers, the polos, the t-shirts, and we said no, we cannot just stop at that. Let's have a brand. So the name of our brand is Emil, with my name is Emmanuel, so Emil. So having the first words of my name, and L is part of my surname, NWALOKA, which I put together. So the first business name is Emil Global Stitches. Before we now advance into, we wanted to go into importation of machines. So here we train people, and the success has been very, very enormous. It is very important to note that the St. Clair Monastery in Ijabode, they trained from us here in this place. We are here. They got permission from the bishop to train in our facility. They were here for 2 months, and we trained them on Sutan, chasuble, Arab, and Roman collar. And we did not end at that place. We also helped them to acquire this machine from China. They were able to acquire the machine from China. We also helped them to acquire other machines from China for their own factory. And their factory today is big and even larger than what we have. Then we also have the sisters, another congregation in Ibadan that we trained. And we trained them not only in training them on the various clerical wears and the clothing, but we also trained them on monogramming. And today they have a factory of their own, and they are working. They are working on their own. Then a few days ago, some sisters, OLA sisters, came all the way from Ibadan too. They were interested in that, and we have an agreement with them for also to train them and to establish them.
Yes, what a beautiful journey, and the journey has been good so far. But I also know there is no enterprise in Nigeria that doesn't face challenges. What are some of those challenges that you are facing in the business?
One of the major challenges I face in the business is finance. Finance, because it's a business that doesn't have any sponsorship. I will use this opportunity to thank my family. My family is very supportive. I can say that 80% of the financing of this particular business is from my family. I didn't have finances from friends, but I will also accept that a friend from this CKC was the one that bought this Mrs. Laura Onyere. She was the one that helped me to buy this machine, so I have received support from here. Then another support is the moral support, the encouragement I'm getting from my congregation. Even though they have not been able to finance it, which I know they will do, but they have been wonderful. Some of the works that we do when we ordain priests, the works are done from here. Then our chasuble, one of our chasubles, the chasuble that marks our congregation, is produced here. So most of the clothes worn by my provincial and some of our priests are produced here. So I'm having so much patronage from my congregation. I'm also having patronage from outside, because when I exposed my business in the internet, I was able to get some priests from US who requested for production of Roman collars, which I produced, after which I found out that the money they sent was a little more than what I produced it. Then I was able to add something chasuble, African made chasuble, to them, which they appreciate. So most times I get my work from UK, from the conference there, which is very, very supportive. But the major challenge is finance. And also considering the way Nigeria has gone, initially we get a yard of material, let me say polo material, at the rate of 700, 800. But with dollar increase, we find out that materials are within the range of 2,500. So you can see almost 400% increase. So if you don't have finance, you cannot go into production, because actually now I'm far beyond producing when someone asks me to produce. What I do now is that I get some money from my family, I produce in large quantity, I send to Kenya, I send to Cameroon, I send to Cote d'Ivoire. So I'm also praying that if I have more finance, more financial support from my congregation and from friends and from my family, of course, that is my major financier, I will produce in large quantity. Like you see the joggers that we produce, you can hardly know whether you can hardly understand, if you look at it very well, whether the joggers are produced here in Nigeria. So now Nigerians can actually produce something that are good. So I want to produce these joggers and some of these polos in larger quantity to be able to export to other African countries and of course Europe, because most of our brothers import clerical wares from Indonesia, from Australia. So but now they are turning down to Nigeria to get from me, which is a welcome development.
Yes, finally, Father, I was going to ask about patronage, but your own congregation, how did they view the enterprise itself? You establishing an enterprise like this, what kind of reaction did you get from the onset from your congregation?
Just as I said initially, my congregation have been a major boost in encouraging me, especially my provincial, very Reverend Father Cletus Palap. And today, most of his clothes are done here. So it's a big source of encouragement. They see it is another apostolate, especially being the fact that it is youth-oriented. As you came into this place, you saw a lot of young people. These are young parishioners here around from Dupemu and all the environs that come here to train. So with this is a big source of encouragement, and parishioners today see that they have a priest that is not just only a good preacher who comes to preach them, but a priest who is good in craft, sewing. I'm more on the area of the designing, of course, the sewing too, and I'm also good at that. So today we have people who come, who are interested in it. The challenge is that our youths need to change their mentality. I know that most of them feel that sewing is a dirty job, but sewing is very lucrative, very lucrative. So I think the challenges are there, but there are challenges that we can. But financially, my congregation will support me. They will support me because they will pray. They pray that this expands. Pray that this expands. So I'll come 7th of September, I'm celebrating my 10 years as a priest. And I've written a book titled My Story of Self-Donation. I hope to launch this book, and this book will enable me to get more finance to open a real social center. I want to build a social center where we have production section and we have a training section. So this will help a long way to empower our youths. I think they are getting interested in it. I'm the chaplain of the youth in our parish, so many of them are keen into that. The first year I arrived here, I was able to raise about 2 million. And the 2 million raised from the church here was used to empower youths. And 3 out of those that were empowered were tellers. So it was like, oh, Father is interested in those who are into sewing. So you see, we hope to do more on that.
Thank you, Father. Same Television will continue to do our best to promote your works and promote your enterprise. From all of us, nice talking to you, Father.
Thank you so much. I'm very, when I received this invitation for this documentary, I was so happy. And it was the first time I saw same Television. So my prayers is that God will continue to sustain you, the work that you do, and help you also to reach out to other sectors that need promotion in business. Small business enterprise is the way to go if Nigeria must grow. Thank you so much. God bless you.